Alright, so let's go over the basics of sponge ball palming. I'm starting out with a 3-incher here, and I'm going to show you a few basic palms. The first is a finger palm, where you're just going to cup it in your fingers like this. What you'll find is if you press down here and curl just a little bit, that crease can actually be retained, and what that'll do is take your sponge ball size down a lot. So if you can press in with your thumb and clip like that, it might help you a lot for your palm. So finger palm, that'll be good for a lot of things. And what I like to do is if you take your index finger, you can push your index finger out a little bit, or maybe have your fingers sort of feather in like so. There's not too much going on, too much difficulty there. But if you put your thumb and index finger together, that will make this seem much more natural if your hands are like this than if your hand is like this. This looks very stiff. This could be a natural position. The best case scenario is if you're holding something else. So say you're holding a different sponge ball, then your finger palm is great. It's awesome, and you're ready to go. So finger palm. You have your standard palm. This would be what most people would use for a coin, but I do it a lot for sponge balls actually. Now the way that palms work is there's just sort of a risk-reward ratio going on. So this palm, for example, can look really awesome because you can have a lot of freedom with your fingers, but there's still that risk that you really don't have a ton of angles. I mean, a finger palm, not a huge amount of risk, not a great reward, but it'll do the job. But I mean, you have quite a few angles until you actually can see that sponge ball. So if you can make that crease in there, that'll decrease its size. I don't do that every time, but that will help. And the goal here is just to use the skin on both sides and to just learn to put just enough amount of pressure. Now usually, I mean, the harder it is, the more awkward your hands are going to look, and it'll just squish the sponge ball in. If you can get it as light as possible, usually maybe with still maintaining that crease. But to get into the sponge ball palm, usually pressing down here with the fingers and gripping with the sides of my hand, and then you can get into this position. So, and right now the sponge ball has gotten open, which is okay. If I'm holding another object, this one can also look good to have it there. But usually this is just something I'll do for a quick flash. So you're in finger palm, flash the hands open for a second, and then go into the next thing in finger palm. So finger palm, just move it down, show the fingers open, and back to being in finger palm. So those are the two basic palms you're going to use. Let's try it with a smaller sponge. I think this is a 1.5 inch. So this makes it a lot easier if your hands are smaller. The first sponge I bought were 1 inch, were these little guys, and these are pretty easy to palm. I mean, they're not too difficult. So same thing. This is a little stiffer sponge ball, so it's really easy. I put that one in my basic palm all the time. One last palm that you'll do is a clip. So with your thumb and your palm, so just clipping it in there, putting it in between the flesh like so. The main thing is that you don't flash through on that side, and this is sort of meant, it's best when your hand is pointing towards the audience that way. So it's just sort of a natural place. There's some moves that you'll do that will require a clip. So like that one there, that switch, and that the clip is really good for that. So just sliding it down in there and clipping it like so. And some disappearing things people will use a clip for, that some people feel that's pretty free. The nice thing is the forefingers are really free. The thumb is, pretty much out of commission. So if somebody's not too keenly aware, it's not too bad. Another palm you can do is just putting your thumb down. It's sort of like a basic, just with your thumb away, and as long as they're not counting, it's fine. It can work. Probably not my favorite one, but probably done it, and it's kind of a good one to go into a transition or something like that for just a second, because it's nice to mix up your palms, because people get suspicious if you're in this position all the time. They might even get suspicious if you're in this position all the time. But if you're talking and you're gesturing and you're moving from palm to palm, very, just like so, moving the sponge around, that will help you a lot. And I remember when I first got into Magic and was doing coins, I just sort of walked around with a coin palmed in my hand all the time, and just really got that feel. And palming is super important, because if you don't have a good palm, it doesn't really matter how good your disappearing is. You've got to be able to palm efficiently. So I mainly palm in my right. I palm in my left when I need to, but usually my right. Now the best case scenario though is when you have one object in your hand and are holding another one right here. And this is just, I wouldn't even call this a palm. You're just holding it in your hand. And I love to get in this position a lot. And this is just because this is 0 angles. As long as this is closed here, you've got 360. You can hold this one. And honestly, this is actually a way to show that you're being honest with them by showing, this sponge ball really naturally while concealing the other one. So those are just some basics of palming. I thought I should cover that, a little more thoroughly. So before you check out some of my other sponge ball videos. But that's it. Thanks for watching.